once I've downloaded the SDK, I'll actually have like this, runnable server, and then all I have to do here is just start it up and giving it the directory of my application. Okay? So that will start up, and depending on whether I have an internet connection or not, it will go and double check to see if it has any updates, and if not, it will just go ahead and continue with my current. So it looks like I don't have my connection to the internet at the moment, but that's okay, because now it will start up. Now we're running on port 8080. And I'll just open up a new window, and I'll go localhost 8080. And so as expected, we can see that we now have Hello World. Now I'm going to very quickly start modifying my Hello web app. Or actually, it's like a cooking show, so I'll just kind of go through different versions. So here is like a new version of my web app, but now it contains essentially the web application utility library. So these are a set of additional libraries that come with App Engine, just as you were explaining before on your slide, where you have a lot of different web application utilities. You can go through and add these things together. So in this sense, I'm going to go ahead and run this one just by going ahead and modifying this script here. Actually, what I'm going to do is, in the interest of time, I just saw the time exposure. I'm going to go ahead and jump ahead a little bit just to make it a little bit faster. So this web app utility allows you to have essentially a little more functionality to process incoming HTTP requests. So it's similar to like an HTTP servlet, so you can process GET and POST in this manner, as opposed to just in a dumb fashion dumping directly out to the printer or to the output stream. Now here's another one. Here's where I want to work with users. So in this sense, if I want to actually check to see if the user is logged into the application, I can use, well, first of all, I can import the users package, and then check right here if the user is logged in, and then be able to respond accordingly. So let's go ahead and take a look at that application, that version of the application. So just put that there. And I don't even have to start up the application server. So here we go. Instead of getting that same hello message, I got redirected to a login screen. Now, if I deploy this login, right now it's a dummy login screen, but if I deploy this application, it will actually redirect me to my Google account login. So this is like a nice little thing. So now I've logged in, and it now has a user registration name for me. In this case, it's just an example, test.example.com. Okay, so let's move ahead. How do we process forms? So here's like a newer version of this Hello World app. And now, as you can see, I have in my GET handler, so this is basically a bit of code that's going to respond to an HTTP GET. I actually create the response, and I put some HTML code there, which will print out a form. And inside the form, it has an action, so this is actually going to post back my form data to this /sign URL. And as you can see down here, I've registered this /sign to this guestbook handler. So that, as you can see here, there's a class-defined guestbook. It accepts a post incoming transaction, and then it extracts the get. It uses self.request.get to grab the content form parameter. So this is basic form processing. Let's go ahead and take a look at what that looks like actually running. I'll go back to my browser. Refresh. So there's my form, and there's processing. So that's pretty basic so far. I know how to process HTTP requests, both GET, POST. I know how to process form parameters. The next thing is like, okay, now what if I want to persist the data? Well, the obvious thing is you can use the App Engine data store. So in this case, let me just jump ahead to the next version of this application, which is built upon the previous ones. But now I'm using the App Engine data store, and I'm importing this DB class, where I can then define this greeting. As you can see here, this is my data object, where it has 3 fields. So you can think of this like as a SQL table with 3 columns. I have author, content, and date. And the content, that's the actual field that we type in. Now, when this application receives just a request to view the main page, it goes to this main page here, processes it, and first it checks to see if there's any data in the data store, and if there is, it will go ahead and iterate through the data and display the different data the content for the different records within my data store. And then after that, it will go ahead and print out the form again to allow me to submit some more data. So let's go back and enable this data version to work. All right. This time I'll go back to sign, the main page. So there's my guest book. So right now there's nothing in the data store. So I can say hello. And now it's iterating through all my records in the data store. I can say hello again. So basically you can see I have simple persistent data, and that's pretty much it. So now, so far we discussed users, how to process forms, how to work with persistent data in the data store. You may have noticed this code here in my application is not very good in the sense that I'm actually mixing my user interface with my server code. So typically web application frameworks will have the ability to have UI presentation layer here and your actual server code here. This is done with templates. App Engine has support for templates as well. So let me show you this very quickly. And this is actually two parts. So now my main page here is simply processing data and making values available to a page, a static HTML page. So here I have greetings, URL, link text, and these are now available inside of this page, index.html, which when I show you this page, you'll see how it works. So here, as you can probably recognize, this is just traditional HTML, but with some expressions now. So I can say, for greeting in my greetings, just go ahead and loop through, and we'll show the different greetings as well as showing like an actual form. Okay. So let's go ahead and fire up this last version. You'll also notice, now that I'm using a web page, I'm almost done. Now that I'm using a web page, I've also included CSS. So now I've applied some styling. And that was also in my app.yaml file, which defined a static directory with CSS. And that's how you would also add images or any other JavaScript libraries. So again, and that's pretty much it. Now, if I have 1 second, since I don't have a live connection, this is like using like the command line version, but you can also have the Google App Engine launcher. And here you can run the application from this console. But the cool thing is you can also deploy it. Now, I don't think my web connection is okay, but I can always try it. Just because, yeah, so it's not, I don't have a connection to the web. But basically, once you are live, you can deploy your application using this utility, and then you can also click on this button and go to the dashboard and manage the application once it's hosted live on the internet. Okay? Is that it? Okay.